I would describe Nanny as a love letter to mothers who have sacrificed so much for their families, for their children, immigrant mothers, American mothers, mothers who are navigating capitalism and doing disproportionate domestic labor at home. It's also a love letter to the diaspora with horror elements. The American dream is so much of a horror story for a lot of people, including, native-born Americans. And I use that word native very loosely, but it's this mythical American dream can be a horror story for so many of us. So it's a hopeful story, it's a love letter, but it does have a lot of elements of horror and the mystical. So Nanny originated very loosely on pieces of my mother's story. My mother's name is Hannah Kuri, and she's Sierra Leonean. She met my father, who's also Sierra Leonean, in America, and made a lot of sacrifices. So she's highly educated, she's self-published 2 novels, she's owned a business, and yet had to diminish her light in order to access work that was accessible to her. And a lot of that work, some of that work was domestic labor. And so, that was the beginning of the origin story, but I knew I didn't want to tell a straightforward story about a domestic worker. I wanted to add nuance and magic and horror. And so I incorporated elements of West African folklore that spoke to my protagonist's internal journey. So I externalized her internal journey through figures of resistance and rebellion like Anansi the spider and Mami Wata, who are 2 figures that exist in so many cultures. They're called different names, but I knew, that I wanted to incorporate these figures of resistance, the mermaid and the spider, into a live action form that spoke to a protagonist we haven't seen before. Anna was a breath of fresh air. From the moment my mother gave me a head nod. My mother watches everything. She consumes all content. She judges nothing, which I love about her. And I think that I took on the filmmaking bug by osmosis because of her love for cinema. And so she saw Anna Jope's face, not in Titans. I think Anna was doing an interview in regards to Titans. And so she alerted me to her because she knows I'm always on the lookout for actresses, especially Black actresses who are underutilized in this industry. When I saw Anna's face, besides her being stunning and taking up every pixel of every frame that her face inhabits, she's emotes so much with her gaze, her eyes, without having to say too much. And so her humility in going through the process of auditioning and showing that she was not only gorgeous, but she had the breadth and the depth to encompass a complicated role like this, really cemented my collaboration with her. The journey of Nanny premiering at some of the most, top tier film festivals on this journey has been very affirming and very humbling simultaneously. I often say that I have full faith in my ability as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, my ability to identify collaborators who can bring my vision to life in a gorgeous, brilliant way. But oftentimes I lose faith in the system itself. And so to be acknowledged by some of the most reputable institutions has been immensely affirming and encouraging in order for me to continue telling the stories that are not always easy to bring to the screen. Okay, so bringing Nanny to global audiences has felt very justifiable because I intended to make a global film. I think that, what does it mean to be American in 2022 and beyond? It means that we are a culture of diversity. We are a culture of immigrants. We are a culture that rests on indigenous land, enslaved peoples. And so the fact that we are being acknowledged globally feels very organic and par for the course in creating a film like this as we navigate themes of classism, imperialism, colonialism, racism, capitalism. These are themes that are resonant worldwide. So it feels very affirming to have the global audience respond to Nanny.